Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Two gunmen killed during highway gunfire, police stated. One of St. James' most notorious gunman, Odin Christopher, was fatally shot during a confrontation with the police. Reports are that a targeted operation conducted by the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Branch CTOC led the police to intercept a motor vehicle along the North-South Highway in the vicinity of the Linstead exit. When signaled by the police to stop, two men alighted from the vehicle and opened fire at the police team. The fire was returned and two men were fatally shot. The other shooter is yet to be identified. Christopher is known to be a high-ranking member of the Bushead gang and was charged with murder and reported in St. James on condition of the bail. In a release yesterday evening, the Corporate Communications Unit on the Jamaica Constabulary said the Independent Commission of Investigation INDECOM has been notified and the scene was processed. Manchester man charged after gun found in bag. The police in Manchester on Thursday charged a man for illegal possession of firearm following an incident in Bryce District, Christiana. Charged is 28-year-old Michael Patterson, otherwise called Bojo, a laborer of Pike District in Christiana. It is reported that about 8:40 p.m., cops acting on information accosted and searched Patterson, which resulted in a Smith & Wesson 9mm pistol being found inside a bag he had in his possession. He was taken into custody and was charged. His court date is being finalized. Court gives government deadline to implement overtime system for police force. The government has been given until March 31, 2023 to implement a proper software system to efficiently calculate and capture overtime hours for members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force JCF. Today's Supreme Court decision did not impose any requirement on the government to pay any money to JCF members except for legal costs. The Jamaica Police Federation had taken the government to court over its failure to implement a proper system and to pay cops for working in excess of the agreed 40 hours per week. The Federation had contended that it is owed billions in overtime sums from as far back as 2008. It has filed a lawsuit in 2019 against the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of National Security, the Attorney General, and the Police Commissioner seeking damages and several declarations including whether the heads of agreement between the Federation and government were binding and whether the police were entitled to constitutional relief. Consequently, the full court panel led by Justice Davis Batts this morning ruled that the 5 heads of agreement signed by the Federation and the Finance and the National Security Ministries between 2008 and 2019 were binding and created a legitimate expectation among members of the police force. The full court judges, which also included Crescentel Brown Beckford and Tara Carr, also ordered the government to institute the system to capture the actual overtime hours for the police by March of next year. Under the heads of agreement, the government had agreed to pay the police a flat overtime fee of 10 hours, regardless of whether cops had had excess hours, until the system was put in place. The system should have been in place by the latest March 2010. Since the agreement, police personnel have been paid for the agreed 10 hours, but now a more structured system is to be implemented. The judges in their ruling this morning rejected a request from the Federation for damages. It was ruled that the payment for the additional 10 hours represents liquidated damages. The judge further agreed with the defendant that there was no scope for constitutional damages. Attorney-at-Law Jacqueline Samuels Brown, QC, and Keisha Spence represented the Federation, while Annalisa Lindsay and Matthew Cabidan represented the defendants. Brothers held for 4 counts of murder remanded. The St. Mary brothers accused of killing 4 people, including a Chinese couple in separate incidents, were further remanded when they appeared in the Home Circuit Court yesterday and are to return to court on October 12. Nigel Walters, Ayla Troy, and Nicholas Walters are facing 4 counts of murder in 2 separate incidents in St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland. In the first case, Chinese business operators 53-year-old and 43-year-old respectively were shot and killed during a robbery at their supermarket in St. Elizabeth. 3 gunmen were reportedly caught on closed-circuit television CCTV footage posing as customers in the supermarket before the deadly attack. Following investigations, the brothers were arrested and charged. The second incident involved a 45-year-old businesswoman, Sophia Brown, and her customer, 58-year-old farmer Bernie Lewis, both of Long Hill District, White House, Westmoreland. Brown was at her wholesale on January 12 when the brothers allegedly entered posing as customers. Both men were reportedly assisting the men when they were shot and killed. Yesterday, when the case was mentioned, the court was informed that the case files for both matters are incomplete. As a result, a new mention date was scheduled. In the meantime, the court was advised that Nigel has settled his legal representation and that attorney-at-law Dennis Walker will appear for him, while senior counsel C.J. Mitchell and Karen Wilson represent the other brother. Don't let them make criminals out of teachers, says Moshett High School principal. Presidential candidate for the Jamaica Teachers Association JTA Leighton Johnson is calling for teachers to resist the Jamaica Teaching Council bill, which he declares will turn educators into criminals if passed. Johnson, who is the principal of Moshett High School, lashed the proposed legislation while addressing an annual general meeting of the JTA St. James Parish Association, which was held at the St. John's Methodist Church in Montego Bay. We must stand resolute against the bill in its current form. It will make criminals out of teachers. That is untenable, and we cannot allow that to happen, declared Johnson. We cannot sit by and let them make criminals out of teachers, he continued. He charged that teachers should also show solidarity in tackling other issues facing the profession, including compensation befitting their qualifications. The Jamaica Teacher Council bill, which is currently under review before a joint selected committee of Parliament, has sparked controversial due to concerns that it could eradicate a significant portion of Jamaica's educators due to its definition of a teacher and the requirements for qualifications. It defines a teacher as a person who, having been admitted to the educational teaching program duly recognized in that country where the person is qualified, has successfully completed a bachelor's degree in education or its equivalent, or alternatively, a first degree to postgraduate diploma in education and thereby satisfy the qualifications to be registered as a teacher under the Act. Invest in our schools, JTA boss. Winston Simmet, president of the Jamaica Teachers Association JTA, has appealed to corporate Jamaica, the Minister of Education and other members of high society to invest in the pressing need for the structural improvement of schools across the island. Simmet, who shared remarks at the Lions Club of Kingston final speaking meeting of the calendar year, called for a serious revisiting of how educational institutions are treated, which he said leads to demoralizing groups of teachers who are doing everything that they can to produce quality students in the 21st century. Among the several difficulties confronting the Jamaican educational system, Simmet suggested that schools across the country have been subjected to poor working conditions for far too long. He said he has seen schools with no staff room, principal office next to bathroom facility that were used by all members of staff including security, limited desks and chairs for teachers, no internet connectivity within schools, limited to no running water, no air for children's recreation, and long-standing issue for classroom overcrowding with up to 30 to 40 students. I think we have narrowed the conversation of the education too much. We have contracted in a manner that it does not allow for a full ventilation of the myriad of challenges that we face in the education, and it is negatively impacting the delivery of education and the results we seek to derive from the whole educational process, he said. If we are going to build a nation, we must recognize that education has to be the foundation, the walls and the decks for the building. If we are going to build a nation of prosperity, of progress, of good moral, ethical behavior, and of productivity, he continued, while noting that this could not be accomplished if Jamaicans did not rethink, revisit, reshape, and reorganize their plans, outlook, and investment in education. We have our schools, we have abundant schools, yet so expect students that have been built from 1964 or earlier operate like 1960 and 70 to produce 21st century students and quality, he added, further asserting the dilapidation of schools only produce students of mediocrity. He compared the education system to a three-legged stool and explained that if a leg is broken off, the good or skillful children can sit on the stool and operate as though nothing has gone wrong, but added that the majority of the students who use the same stool would end up falling off and hurting themselves as the majority are currently struggling to function in the classroom. Smith added that Jamaica could not expect its teachers and children to be top class if a massive spend on infrastructural development did not occur. Though he acknowledged that such redevelopment would be costly and preclude an immediate island-wide transformation, he implored the nation to have a desire to begin someplace. Let us not seek to do the entire nation at once, because if we try to fix every single school in Jamaica at the same rate, at the same time, at the same level, we will never attain or achieve that goal, he said. Instead, he proposed that at least 2 schools in each of the 6 regions, or the quality education circle, where institutions are grouped in early childhood, primary, secondary, and tertiary levels within a geographical area, he developed into model school by providing resources and adequate facilities for improving teaching and learning outcomes. Make education the number one priority, and when I say make it priority, I am calling on all the well-thinking businessmen and women of Jamaica to come on board in a fulsome way, he said, and resist the urge to make the experience be about publication. Stop use education as a marketing tool to promote your business, but see it as a way of helping the school to grow, he said. He also encouraged businesses to sponsor or adopt schools and establish well-needed science labs and other needed resources. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.